TV. Everywhere you look, there's a heart, a hand to hold on to. Everywhere you look, there's a face of somebody who needs you. Everywhere you look.
Hello and welcome to Spoiler Alerts. I'm your host Ned, and joining me as ever is my co-host Kyle,
Hello, everybody.
and our guest Jacob
Hello.
for this E3 special. The biggest event in gaming has just occurred.
And it's currently running. We've just had 5 big shows.
Indeed.
If you guys remember our last episode, we talked about our predictions of the show and some of our pretty dumb, unrealistic wishes.
We all come up with 2 or 3 things for each show and each developer. Some more realistic than others. Some things happened, others didn't.
It was a very, very, very mixed bag this year. Not to say that anything was terrible, but there's definitely been their ups and downs. It's more or less on the same quality as last year now I think about it.
Yeah, I think because we all know the next gens are coming, it's kind of left a bit of a sour taste in your mouth when there's not really a lot being shown.
Plus, you also have to remember that Sony decided to sit this year out, which is unfortunately kind of depressing. EA took this out, and you know what, before we actually get into the first of our 5 conferences that we're going to talk into today, I feel like it's fair to briefly mention EA. Now, they did not have a full conference this year. It was more of just a standard EA Play, where they brought in a ton of interviews with several directors and producers and creatives, where they discussed Apex Legends for a bit, then some new FIFA and Madden, and The Sims, and some updates on Jedi Fallen Order, which we'll talk about later on. But long story short, we didn't think it was worthy of putting on here because A, it was 3.5 hours long and boring as all hell, and B, most of the stuff, aside from Jedi Fallen Order, we just didn't feel like we cared enough about to really talk in depth with.
Stuff already made for the fans, really, like, and stuff you're getting as well, like FIFA 20. Like, it is what it is already, really, isn't it? If that makes sense.
Apart from Star Wars, we just got stuff like FIFA, Madden 20, which isn't Madden 08, so therefore has no significance and no right to exist.
Hey y'all, Scott here, and wow, they just released Madden 20. Well, I'll tell you this for a fact, it ain't gonna be only Madden 08 too, guys.
We also got Sims, just Sims. But yeah, nothing too great apart from Star Wars. But I feel like we should probably just move on to the first conference because they did mention the new Star Wars game coming out.
Yeah, actually, let's move on to Microsoft.
Indeed.
And like, which game do you want to start off with, or should we just go through the conference in order?
Shall we start with Star Wars?
I mean, might as well.
We might as well get this out of the way because it wasn't the first thing they showed, I believe, during the conference at all.
Oh no, it was like...
But because we actually want to give the one only interesting thing from EA a bit of time, this is the 3rd game that was made by EA since they acquired the Star Wars license after Disney bought out Lucasfilm, and I think it's fair to say that the first 2 Battlefront games that we had were not particularly very good games.
Oh no, not even slightly.
They were bland.
The originals were great.
They were bland multiplayer looter shooters, and Jedi Fallen Order feels like a bit of a blessing almost because, for one, it's being developed by Respawn, who are responsible for 2 pretty damn good Titanfall games and even Apex Legends, which is a decent Battle Royale game. But it's more just the fact that this time it's going to be an entirely story-based Star Wars title.
Yeah.
I believe it takes place in between episodes 3 and 4. I can't remember the name of the main character, but it's going to focus on a mostly new cast who are a gang of rebels, I believe, during a time when the Empire is about to take off. What do you guys think of this? Because it looks relatively solid stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So what I've got to say is I think the direction of going single player focused and like story focused, that's quite refreshing to me. That kind of gives me a lot more hope than, say, the first 2 Battlefronts, as you said. Well, the EA ones at least, because there's less of a chance of it being a very sort of loot box heavy, money hungry.
Yeah, looks a little bit like a mesh between Dark Souls and Uncharted to me.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does.
the little bit of gameplay that they showed off at the EA Play, it gave me Tomb Raider vibes, but that's a good thing. I do like Tomb Raider games.
I mean, the sad thing is that it didn't necessarily blow me away. Like, the game looked quite good, if a little bit. I feel a part of me wonders from a visual perspective if the game might need a bit more time in the oven because they are trying to get this out for November to capitalize on the Rise of Skywalker. But the game looks solid. I like how a lot of the combat, especially regarding the Jedi, looks like it reminds me a lot of Insomniac Spider-Man in the sense that the controls seem easy enough to understand probably when you first pick it up, but it's about learning the techniques and mastering it. I think that's where a lot of the fun of the game is going to come. I feel like we still don't know much regarding the storyline, and who knows what might come out of that, but I am definitely interested in getting this out, and I just pray to God that we get one decent Star Wars game. I miss LucasArts so much.
The thing that colours me intrigued as well is it's got Stig Asmussen from God of War and some of the writers from Mafia 3 as well. So those are two games that I like. So that's the other thing what makes me think kind of, a bit. Perhaps the game's a bit more intriguing when it looks on the surface, I reckon.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Kind of people making it, those kind of studios. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, but
Moving
now that we've got the one game that EA put out, that was the only one that deserved any attention or recognition. Shall we actually look at the actual conference itself now?
Yep, sure. Okay.
Yeah. We also had another Star Wars game, didn't we? Lego Star Wars for Skywalker Saga.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was in there, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was interesting, actually. Yeah.
I have no idea. Like, I'm just trying to think right now. It looks like it's going to be a mixture of the complete saga with some of the added content from the Clone Wars and the Force Awakens, and even updates, added episodes to include stuff like the Rise of Skywalker and the Last Jedi. Now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. To be fair, like Lego do make good games. They're all quite similar when you sort of boil them down to their core. But I mean, they're all pretty solid games.
It's been a long time since I've been like legitimately interested in a Lego project. Like, don't get me wrong, they're all perfectly fine, perfectly functional, enjoyable games. But I feel like once they made Lego Batman 2 and they sort of made a lot of these more dialogue heavy Lego games, I feel like a lot of the humor and the charm kind of went from them and they just sort of turned into kid fluff.
I don't think that's necessarily a problem. I think it's more just the frequency they come out with, how much they're being made. That's what I think the issue is.
And that's the depressing thing, but I am glad. I'm perfectly happy to re-enter Star Wars again because I think it's easy to say that the Lego iteration of Star Wars has been like Lego's bread and butter.
Yeah.
Does Traveller's Tales still the sole developer of these Lego games?
I
think they
so.
are.
I think so. I'm not sure. I'm not sure to be honest. I haven't played like a sort of mainline Lego game in like about 5 years. So
Yeah, but just to deviate from everything a bit, I actually want to discuss a couple things aside from the games, and that's regarding the actual conference itself. Phil Spencer, as always, is the host again, and thankfully, unlike most of the other major conferences, I like how the talking is kept to a relative minimum, and it's more about showcasing the games first and foremost. But I'm more bringing up this stuff before because there have been some announcements aside from any new updates to any games, and I remember last year when we were discussing about a bunch of new developers they acquired, and yeah, it just happens that they acquired another one, which was the developers behind Psychonauts and Brutal Legend Double Fine.
yeah.
Double Fine.
And with this announcement, also became a new Psychonauts game as well.
The Psychonauts 2 was in development for a long time, and I believe it's sometime this year when we're finally going to see more from it.
Which is very exciting.
I have like huge respect for Tim Schafer and the actual life he brings into a genre that we just don't see that much of anymore. Psychonauts, I know for a fact, was very unique for its twisted art style and just that unique edge that it had. So them acquiring Double Fine is amazing because that can actually bring more for Microsoft in terms of the platform and genre, especially.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
If we move on to the conference as a whole, starting from the top, The Outer Worlds.
Oh yeah,
that kicked it off, didn't it?
That was the new IP. I actually don't remember that much from it. It didn't seem terribly unique to me. I've got like a mixture of like some vibes of We Happy Few and BioShock and a few other games, weirdly.
I'm getting space fallout from it, to be honest with you. It's a game where you can choose to be hero or villain or anything in between. Your choices affect the story quite a lot, set in space, which is interesting.
Definitely looks like it's taking bits of different games, and hopefully those will be the best ones. ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looked solid to me. Like it's not like a day one purchase.
Mm.
It's a step in the right direction, if you ask
Yeah,
me.
definitely. Yeah, it looks quite creative, quite fresh. And,
It feels like
you
from
know.
this and a few other announcements, we're starting to enter a bit of a new era for Microsoft.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
when it comes to their own content.
I'm hoping Gen 9 for them brings a lot more IPs and their own identity, not just Halo and Gears and a bunch of other series that they just basically just killed off because they weren't Halo or Gears.
And now that you mention that, there are a couple other titles. I believe this is a third-party title, but I'm not 100% sure. But should we mention Ori?
Ori, yes. A series of platformers that's very, very interesting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, looks very Rayman-esque,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
I really dig the art style for this game.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't fully remember what the first two games of this series looked like, but it's so
Yeah.
vibrant and so gorgeous, and I doubt that it would need that much power wise to run it really, because it's a 2D
Yeah.
animated video game.
Oh yeah,
But
no.
it
easy to run.
looks legitimately beautiful, very artistic.
Yeah. Very like visually stimulating would be the word I would use.
And there was one other third-party title, which we'll just get out of the way because I do not want to talk about it that much, but we have Minecraft Dungeons coming up too.
Yeah.
That's pretty epic stuff, to be honest. Yeah, Minecraft Dungeons. It's a sort of
A blockbuster take on the Diablo formula, am I right?
I'm not quite sure what game it seems to be going for. It has some sort of Zelda-y Tribal Series co-op style stuff coming out of it. It doesn't feel like traditional Minecraft. It looks like yeah, I get what you mean. It feels very Diablo. I get a lot of vibes from like Zelda and League of Legends and a couple other things too, actually.
it's like a Minecraft RPG in a sense, which is interesting to see. I mean, to be fair, I'm up for it. I'm up for any sort of Minecraft property that actually takes the formula and actually does something different with it. So we'll see how this one does, because it looks intriguing to me.
Okay, is there any other announcements you guys want to touch upon briefly?
I mean, I've got loads here. I've got the entire conference here. So
Yeah.
12 minutes is one that stuck out to me as well, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, I believe the publishers for this one are Annapurna,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure if you're aware of Annapurna Pictures, but they were a film studio that have been responsible for making a lot of exceptionally great film work.
Edith Finch.
Yeah,
And The Unfinished Swan as well, weren't
yeah.
they?
So aside from being a great production and distribution company for cinema, they seem to have branched out and started to take up some indie developers to actually showcase a lot of their artistic talents, like Edith Finch. And 12 minutes looks like another game in that. And the first vibe I got, because it was in an overhead view and it looked like some people were trying to break into their house, was just that case of FBI, open up.
No, but honestly, yeah, that's kind of why it looks quite intriguing to me. I haven't really seen anything quite like it before, like a top-down like action thriller type game, which, I mean, fair play to them. It looks very different and very unique and very cool.
There's actually been quite a lot of indie games this year that I've seemed to have gotten a lot of promise, actually. There was the... I'm not sure if this is indie because I know Microsoft owns this license, but we seem to be getting a revival for Battletoads too.
Yeah, oh yes. The new Battletoads looks pretty excellent. I'm looking forward to that one.
I don't remember the original Battletoads all that much, except for the fact that I think most people know
I've never
that
played it.
it's brutally difficult.
It is,
I did play some of it when it was on the Rare Replay collection. Yeah, it's brutal as hell. I couldn't actually get past the first level of it, but yeah, I'm glad to see that it's coming back. It has a very gorgeous and impressive looking art style. It reminds me a lot of the modern rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, weirdly, which I feel is probably a good thing. And there's also been a collection of other third-party titles too. Blair Witch is another one.
Yeah.
Blair Witch looks very, very interesting.
Yeah, it looked a bit like
cool.
Alan Wake to me. Gave me those...
I was very surprised to see this, because I don't think anyone was really expecting this, to be honest with you.
It didn't get leaked, so that's the first.
Yeah. And cinematically, it looks terrific, really. Like, it looks like it's got the spooky factor correct. We haven't seen anything in terms of gameplay, which is a
it's
little...
coming out really soon as well, isn't it? Very end of August.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate, really, but it's not like a deal breaker to me or anything.
No,
but
surprisingly they're not releasing it in October to do like a Halloween.
Yeah, that would make more
vibes.
sense.
That surprised me a little bit.
But yeah, I'm happy to see what that is.
I'm intrigued to see more.
None of the other indie titles seem to have impressed me terribly much. So I think for us now, I think we'll just move on to some.
I kind of want to see more of Spiritfarer, which is the sort of cartoony looking.
Yeah, I did notice a lot of nods from Terraria with that game. And just like with every Microsoft conference, we get a ton of third-party stuff to mask away the fact that they're still trying to wring out a little bit of their very mediocre first-party library.
Yeah,
but
and
we've got
actually a lot of that stuff is actually that they did discuss in the Game Pass section, which basically is a sort of like a Microsoft subscription service.
Yeah, you can get Borderlands the Handsome Collection for free, as you can everywhere else at the moment.
Like all of their first party titles also get like announced like with this every time a first party Xbox title comes out, it's free to play on the Game Pass should you have the subscription. And they've also made the announcement that they're also not only bringing it to PC this time on Windows 10, but they're also giving us a new Ultimate Pass, so you can access the Game Pass for a limited price on both the Xbox and PC platforms, which is pretty good considering the price it is. I think it's about $14.99 in US dollars.
They sort of showed off 20 games that were available or were going to be available. Most of those were indie, which is pretty cool.
But it also includes a lot of their first party titles, so you can get tons of stuff like, I know for a fact there's stuff like Super Lucky's Tale, Sunset Overdrive, Sting to K2, Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, Tomb Raider was on there as well.
Crackdown 3 and stuff like that.
Available right now, which is pretty cool. You got stuff like Arkham Knight, Metro, Borderlands.
Absolutely.
It's just, I mean, those 3 games are massive, and
although Handsome Collection is starting to feel like the gaming equivalent of DFS, which case it'll always a sale on.
The solid thing to me about Microsoft is that they seem to know their audience extremely well, and I do kind of commend that quite a bit, actually.
As well as this, we also got the Master Chief Collection on PC, which I think is pretty cool. It's
absolutely
cool to see Halo games on PC.
I mean, we got another update to Halo Ultimate, which we'll talk about later, but I feel like this is a good thing that they're bringing it to PC because it seems like they're wanting to have people catch up on Halo in general just before that game comes out, probably to maximize sales, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But it's glad to see that that's there. I have nothing bad to comment regarding any of this.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about some of the third-party titles for now?
There is one game I've been dying to mention, and it's a little game. You might have heard of it. I'm not sure. It rhymes with Myperfunk 2087. Of course, Cyberpunk 2077 with the man himself, John Wick, in the starring role.
Yeah, I was just about to mention this one actually, but Cyberpunk.
Loved it.
Wow, looks fantastic. Honestly, I'm very much sold on Cyberpunk now, especially with Keanu Reeves, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, there was a guy in the crowd as well that shouted, "You're breathtaking," and he gets a free copy as well. So
I think he gets a free copy of the game. That lucky bastard. But the game looks great. It was another cinematic trailer. It was not really until Keanu Reeves' reveal where I was completely and utterly mind blown by what I was watching. But it's great to know that he's there, and considering that we know that Keanu Reeves is very picky about the projects he does pick because he needs a good storyline with it, I think that gives a lot of extra added potential to what Cyberpunk could be.
It just looks cool. That's why I want it. It just looks cool. And it reminds me a lot of Ready Player One as well, which is like my favourite thing. So I'm pretty sold on it already, to be honest. And you've got CD Projekt Red, who gave away, free DLC, a ton of it, and even a bloody thank you letter with The Witcher 3. So you've got a great studio making it. And it just looks great. Looks really, really well worth buying.
Keanu Reeves actually came on stage to talk about the game, which I thought was pretty cool.
Imagine if you were like at the actual show and he just shown up out of nowhere. You have to remember he's actually at a very good height right now. Like John Wick 3 just came out a few weeks ago to glowing reviews and terrific box office. I can say for a fact it's a great sequel, and he's also in Toy Story 4 as a new character named Duke Kaboom as well. I think it's fair to say that he's in a bit of a huge hype for the moment, so it's nice to see him there. But I never particularly figured that he'd be the kind of guy to like do game work, so it's amazing to see. Whatever the quality of the game is to be desired, I have absolutely no clue, but I'm quite sold on it. I'm excited to see what else that could come out of Cyberpunk.
It's intriguing as it is exciting, and that's why I'm looking forward to it quite a lot.
There's been a couple of first party content that's been announced for it. Forza's getting itself an update with some Lego
Oh my god, yeah, the Forza Lego update. I must say the car that they brought out in the showing was really cool.
I don't quite know what to describe about it, but it seems weirdly cheeky. I don't know what it is about the Forza audience, but I am guessing a lot of kids are especially into it. So it's a nice little bit of cheeky fun, which I do actually quite dig a lot. And it was quite a good leeway to some other content that was also shown off. And one part of the show that was featured very big and very prominently was weirdly Gears of War 5.
Yes, indeed. But I mean, this is one of Microsoft's biggest series. Like, this is like one of the two that they're really known for. We'll get to the other one a bit later on. But no, they showed off Gears of War and then also Gears of War Escape, which looks to be a 3-player co-op zombies, I guess.
Let's not forget the epic Funko Pop game too.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
the Funko Pop game for mobile devices. Funko Pop, man, they're just I I can't be dealing with them.
They seem to dedicate like a lot of the show to it. Like they built a whole bit of stage underneath the show floor. They seem to be really hyping the game up to be.
Yeah, that was really cool.
I really dig the dedication that the team seem to have to bring this to life, and the fans seem to enjoy it. It's out on September 10th, and I'm sure a lot of the fans of the series are going to eat it up. I have no clue how accessible it's going to be to those who aren't familiar with Gears of War, but it's one of their big leading franchises. It usually sells very well, so people have that, don't they?
Yeah, it's going to sell like hotcakes.
Yeah,
no
definitely.
doubt.
There's also been a couple of other games that were shown off as well. There's this new project from Software that's been called up from Elden Ring as well.
The George R.R. Martin.
The Lord of the Elden Rings.
I did not figure that it would take as short of a time as it did, because it was March when From Software had released their last game, which was Sekiro. But Elden Ring should show some standard promise. If it's like any other From Software title, it should have a lot of open world exploration, a lot of cool fantasy elements, and a lot of death.
Indeed.
And a lot of annoyed teenagers throwing their controllers at the nice little television screen.
Yeah, and that's
more so than Fortnite.
Let's not forget all of the gamers out there that say that if you're not good at From Software games, you're not good at anything. You're not a true gamer. Yeah.
Basically. However, what does make you a true gamer is being amazing at Flight Simulator.
It's basically Pilot Wings on the 3DS, but for Xbox consoles.
The best game release there, Flight Simulator. What more is there to say? Flight Simulator. I mean, to be fair, it looks beautiful, but Flight Simulator.
Yeah. Some of those games just is what it is, and the fans will eat it up, but the people not interested won't.
There's also been Borderlands 3 as well. This is the only real conference that actually showed much significance to Borderlands 3, which I found weird because it wasn't that long ago since it was announced. And it's in September, I believe, when it's coming out as well, which I find a little bit odd. I would have imagined a lot more build-up and a lot more hype and anticipation being built around Borderlands 3's release. Does it feel a bit weird to you at all? Because it is to me.
Not really, because I've got a housemate who loves it and he's pre-ordered the super the Ultimate Edition already. So for me, I kind of understand the hype. But they did announce free DLC, didn't they, for the second one? What you can also get on the Handsome Collection.
Yeah, they did. And as of time of this recording, I believe you can get like Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel within this Handsome Collection on PlayStation Plus, and I believe it's also on the Game Pass now, isn't it? As I said, it's the
gaming equivalent of a DFS sale. It's always on. It never ends.
Borderlands 3, I mean, it's probably one of the most hype games of this decade, honestly. No, I mean, honestly, like, the amount of people that have been asking for it is honestly ridiculous. But I'm not sure how much more hype you can really build from it. Like, I think everyone kind of knows enough about it by now to really be interested in it. So I think companies showing it off here is just a bit, because, what more is there to show, I guess.
It's more of the same of what we've seen before. It's the same sort of cel-shaded art style, the open world gameplay, the very mature tone, along with the equally extremely sadistic and silly humor. I've not played any of the Borderlands games, but I know I can easily download the Handsome Collection right now to give it all a shot. But looks solid. I don't really have much else to comment on that. Do you guys have any more points to this?
Yeah, it looks like it's definitely got a lot of humour and it looks entertaining for sure, but I've never actually played the series, so like you, I think I'll have to go back before I think about picking up the third one.
There is quite a big one that they talked about, and that was Xbox hardware. Now, they first revealed a new Elite controller, which was actually really cool. It had stick sensitivity, so you could tweak that for each game, or...
Yeah.
I kind of really like the dedication that Microsoft has to their gaming tech, because even outside of the conference, they've actually integrated keyboard and mouse to their consoles, and they've even been trying to find more accessible ways for gamers that, people with physical or mental disabilities to get in on the action. So there is something like extremely respectful, but at the same time, along with announcing that new Elite controller, they finally started to unveil the curtains of the development for their next generation console, which is called Project Scarlet.
Yeah.
This is very interesting. I really want to see what their 9th gen console is going to be like. I'm guessing next E3 we're going to get all the information for it. It was really cool this E3 that they actually finally addressed it and had a big montage section.
The console, from what we hear, the console looks like it's going to be an extremely powerful beast. For one thing, it looks like it can get up to resolutions of 8K, frame rate speeds up to about 120 frames per second. And one announcement which I think blew most people out of the water was actually the announcement that one of the big launch games that's going to be coming with the Scarlet console is actually Halo Infinite.
Yes, big finale, wasn't it, as well?
A new Halo game at launch is definitely going to help us out a lot. Halo, I mean, just released a trailer and people are hyped. There's not much more that really needs to be said. They do an excellent job, though, at unveiling all the games, though. Really do. As every trailer just...
There's plenty that could be said about it though. The trailer showed a lot of intrigue. I even for someone like me who has never played a Halo game and just never really decided to give it the time of day, it showed a lot of weird intrigue to me. Even as somebody that knows, I know who Master Chief is. I think most people, even if they don't know Halo, know who Master Chief is. But the cinematics looked beautiful. It showed a lot of promise, and from what I heard in a couple interviews, it's meant to be like a spiritual reboot of the series. It's still set within the same universe and timeline, but it's gonna kind of... I feel like it's also going to be built in a way that it can be accessible to new players, especially since it is meant to be the launch of a new console. It's giving me the similar sort of vibes to how the Nintendo Switch got revealed and how it became a big launch title with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which was also something that's helped that system so unbelievably well. But it was a fantastic way to end the show, and looking back over it, it was pretty solid stuff. I don't like it. I don't quite like it as much as last year's show generally, because they just had more to show off, especially from a third-party perspective. But they acquired new developers, showed off some new stuff about their first-party titles, showed some exciting potential regarding their brand new system, along with the obvious fact that it's now launching with Halo. It's solid.
As Phil Spencer actually said, it was the largest games unveiled in the conference all year, and there's a lot of stuff here we haven't even talked about, and I don't quite know how he would really. Age of Empires 2 getting a remaster, which is pretty cool. Stuff like Dying Light 2, we haven't even seen.
Tales of Arise as well.
Yeah. There's just so much great stuff here that honestly, it's really hard to just...
I agree.
We decided to do something a little bit more fun this time and give our own personal final ratings for each of these shows. I know it sounds incredibly cheesy, but I'll just put in my rating here. It's a solid 7 out of 10 for me.
I agree.
Nothing particularly blew me away, but what they did show it off was generally quite exciting. It promises a very bright future for Microsoft, with the fact that they have new developers, a new console coming up. It's quite exciting in the game space that we have.
Yeah, I'm also going to give it a pretty strong 7. A lot of great games shown here. Even the stuff I'm not really so bothered about, they still showed off. So I've got to give them credit for that. But yeah, what I'd say is maybe a bit more focus on stuff that isn't just like Borderlands, because that got mentioned a few times here. Quite a lot of the older games and remasters, which is pretty cool. But I don't know. But yeah, no, a lot of great stuff here, and a new Halo, a new Gears, and a new Xbox is going to be a fantastic conference anyway. So yeah, very good job there, Microsoft.
Yeah, I give it a 7 as well. I think a lot of the time for reasons above. For me, it was a little bit light on actual gameplay. And that become quite a big pattern for all of the conferences. It was like, here's a overproduced cinematic trailer, when it's like Cyberpunk, the trailer was nice, Keanu was nice, but we didn't see a gameplay demo, did we? So that'd be my major criticism. But Yeah, it was an enjoyable show. It was a good showcase for loads of first party and third party stuff coming out, and it set the groundwork for the next gen as well, which it needed to. So Cyberpunk and Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga were my biggest takeaways from it.
All of that is like very fair criticism because that's something that I feel like is accountable across all the shows, and I am not again like a huge fan of cinematic trailers because yeah, they look pretty and they clearly have a lot of effort and love put into them, but they don't really give us a very good idea or a glimpse as to what these games could be. They're clearly there because they don't really have anything within the development time they have to show off anything that's noteworthy. They just kind of want us to know that the games are coming out. But yeah, it was probably one of the better conferences of the show, and I am admirable of that, which is why the next conference that we're going to be talking about pretty much takes the complete tonal shift.
Oh, here we go.
Bethesda, is it?
Bethesda, yeah. Starts out with some montage of just bigging themselves up because that's what they do.
A part of me really wondered why Bethesda needed another show in the first place, because last year they did actually have quite a few exciting and meaty things to talk about, but
not so much this year.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And you also have to remember that they haven't had a particularly great time over this past year either, because they released Fallout 76, which got mostly mediocre to extremely negative reviews. And there was Rage 2, and then there was Rage 2, which was reviewed fine, I guess, but it left very, very little of an impression. And it's also very clear during this conference.
It sold a quarter of the first one's sales, I believe, which isn't good. That wasn't a very well-selling game to begin with.
To me, it was very clear that this conference just had very little of note to talk about. There's a few diamonds in the rough, but not enough to warrant anything amazing out of it.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for me was Ghostwire Tokyo, which is the new one from Evil Within Dev, which is a great series, by the way, Tango Gameworks.
Oh, yeah.
Banos Snap, the video game set in Japan, basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Ghostwire Tokyo does look very interesting. I want to see what they do with the world, because I'm really not sure where they're quite going to go with it.
It looked genuinely promising. I think it's still in early development, but the concept seemed very creative and something that we haven't quite seen before. And I just
we just saw it in Endgame.
Well, absolutely, but it was also one of the bigger highlights of the show because the developers that came in, these two Japanese people, they were clearly very nervous and uncomfortable.
I loved the lady. I thought she was brilliant. So sweet and nervous. She made the show for me, honestly.
She's become a little bit of a meme on the internet since that show.
Yeah.
She was so like adorable and cutesy and so completely nervous.
Yeah. Oh, I love her.
I love the two of them. They seem to have a lot of passion and drive for the project they were working on.
Yeah. I've never seen someone so enthusiastic about a new IP. I just love it. Yeah. Interesting game, definitely. I'm looking forward to seeing more. And I liked Evil Within as well, so that's promising as well.
Yeah.
Looks like they're taking some horror elements from those games into a more of an action setting.
In terms of other announcements, we've got Elder Scrolls Online getting 2 expansions because apparently people still play
I'm surprised.
Moving on.
There must be some people out there that play these games because they clearly
There's 3 people, occasionally 4 on a Sunday.
They clearly somehow have like the money and finances to keep the support going for them.
I'm very surprised. We got an announcement that Switch is going to be getting Blades, which was their free-to-play mobile game.
Oh my god! Don't get me started on that bloody game.
I mean, I don't know. I might try it out seeing it's free, but
Bethesda Game Studios came out quite at the beginning of the conference. I just want to mention how comical it was to get Todd Howard on because
with 76, after all the stuff that went down with 76, they kind of had to get him out again just to sort of apologise, even though he kind of apologised halfway and just still tried to make out that the game is better now and people still play it, which I'm sorry, I can't believe. They also added some new expansions and a battle royale.
That's what I mean. It feels weirdly hypocritical to me that they would go out of their way to apologise for 76 and then completely move on to announcing more content for 76 in the first place.
And a free trial because they are really trying to.
A lot of it must have been in the works last year when they announced it. So I think they're sort of feeling an obligation of sorts.
I also find it weirdly humiliating that one of the expansions they announced that they're bringing, shock horror, NPCs and dialogue trees. Stuff that, if you've ever played or known a Fallout game in your life, should have been in there and launched in the first place.
Basically, yeah. I mean, yeah, there isn't really too much more to say about 76. A really promising start last year, and then just went completely downhill, and now it's just.
There was this phone game called Commander Keen. It was a trailer that showed some promise because of the cartoony art style. To the
Yeah, it
point
was
when I was
basically Phineas and Ferb, wasn't it?
yeah,
Looked like that to me.
that's one.
The game series was actually well before Phineas and Ferb. Started out on MS DOS, and then went to Game Boy Advance in 2001. So like it's a very it's quite an old series, and I'm quite surprised that they are reviving it. I'm not sure how many fans it had back in the day, but yeah, it's fair enough.
I mean, yeah, it's depressing because it got a lot of intrigue from me, and then they just went out of their way to announce it as a phone game, which completely stripped any interest I had out of it from me out of the gate.
Yeah, it was a bit of a
I mean,
gasp of
not necessarily. I
underwhelming.
mean, I don't think just because something's a phone game means it's necessarily going to be terrible. But yeah, I don't know.
I would have
mean,
preferred like a full actual console and PC game out of it, but
yeah, I guess yeah. I may try it out for a bit. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be like, but yeah, we'll see.
We had Deathloop, a new IP from
Deathloop,
Arcane, who
yes.
made Dishonored and Prey, which are both great games. Looked interesting. We only got a trailer though, again, overproduced cinematic trailer, but it had like an action movie style.
Yeah.
Had like an Idris Elba style character. So we'll see more of it.
it looked cool. I liked the noir. Well, I wouldn't say noirish. I liked the very spy themed sort of feel and style to it. We have nowhere near enough footage to actually get any legitimate thoughts collected for it, but it shows some promise. Maybe a start of another good IP like Ghostwire Tokyo, perhaps.
Maybe a cross-gen title as well. Who knows?
Yeah. We also got a new streaming service called Orion.
Oh yeah. Guys, it's cool that you're trying to get in on the Twitch streaming phase, but nothing about it seemed that unique to me.
It's interesting tech. I just don't see why you'd use it, to be honest with you.
We also got 2 new Wolfenstein games called Subpart and
Youngblood, as far as I'm concerned, is a brand new mainline Wolfenstein game.
It was announced last year as well, but gameplay shown off this year. It's coming out July the 26th.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks to be like a very cool and creative World War II game that's going for a very...
It's like the infamous first light of the Wolfenstein universe, from what I gather.
It looks very funny and kind of self-aware. Like you can basically call Nazis in it, as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, yeah, that's been what all the games have been like. All the Wolfenstein games have been like, because it just has been about World War II times. And that's been what it's about. I mean, I think the boss in the first game was Hitler or something like that.
Yeah. So. There was also Wolfenstein Cyberpilot, which was a VR game, which, like most VR games, will probably be cool for about 2 hours when you play it, and then nothing else will happen.
I can agree with that.
There's one thing I do want to mention, which is the expansions they're bringing into Rage 2. I don't want to say much about it, but it had a very funny and creative sitcom trailer, and
it was funny.
I'm going to speak to you in the future, but enjoy a overly edited version of me putting the Full House music onto Rage 2 for the epic sitcom experience.
Oh my god.
Everywhere you look, there's a heart, a hand to hold on to. Everywhere you look, there's a face of somebody who needs you. Everywhere you look.
I want to play Rage 2, just not at £40. That's my whole thing with it.
Yeah, I think we've covered about everything they did, apart from one thing.
Doom.
Yes, indeed, their big finale.
It's what we were waiting for, wasn't it? So conveniently, it was sort of a big finale for the conference.
Yeah. I mean, what can I say? It's Doom.
I love it so much because it's heavy metal, the video game, isn't it? It really is.
I've noticed that Doom Eternal has like a very cool and creative art style. It looks like it's lending itself to some Greek mythology. It's still going for what the first game had, which was a very chaotic but insanely fun first-person shooter sort of gameplay that's insanely gratuitous, glorified, violent as all hell. But it's
I love the Doom guy because he just says it best when he says nothing at all, like the old Ronan Keaton song. He's such a good protagonist, I think. When he, I love it when he like chops their arms off and then like uses it to scan himself in through a doorway. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes, and as well as this, they released a battle mode.
Yeah.
I can imagine a big player base coming out of Doom because it feels, just from the gameplay and sort of the legacy of the franchise, like it was kind of built for it.
It could be a bona fide contender to this year's Call of Duty, I reckon.
We have 3 people controlling zombies and 1 person controlling a well-equipped Doom guy.
Yeah, but yeah, it looks cool. It looks like more of the same. I'm sure fans will really dig it. It's coming out on November 22nd. It looks like it's going to be Bethesda's big holiday release, which seems kind of crucial, especially if they're going to want to try to get some people to come back after the huge 76 debacle. And that concludes everything from Bethesda. Probably one of the most boring, underwhelming, and relatively unnecessary shows that we've probably had in a long time.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot here that I really was interested in.
It was very much a one-game show in Doom.
They focus so much on stuff like Elder Scrolls Blades.
Yeah,
and
it just sucked all the
other
goodwill
phone
out of it. Yeah,
games.
because we did have some great stuff there, like Ghostwire looked good, Deathloop looked interesting, but you just had this big pile of like mobile games, and what just made it seem like a worse show than it probably was, actually, if that makes sense.
It was a boring show overall because it was it didn't really, it
The
wasn't like
pacing was very weird.
Yeah, it wasn't like Microsoft where they kept most talking to a consistent minimum and mostly just focused on game after game after game after game. It was a lot of talking. There were some highlights to it that, like the developers of Ghostwire Tokyo are very funny, and they gave so much personality to a conference that had basically none.
Yeah.
It was just a very boring show that didn't have much new to say, and what new there just wasn't enough to warrant its existence.
Yeah.
I'll just get my final rating out of the way. I'm gonna give it a straight up 3. Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop saved it from, and even some of Doom 2 saved it from extinction to me, but it was nothing else that really warranted it.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 4. I really, really like the look of Ghostwire. I really like the look of Wolfenstein Youngblood, like Doom, and I like Deathloop. But apart from that, there isn't really too much there for me to be like, yeah, this is worth it, to be honest. I don't think it was really all that bad, but it certainly could have been a lot better.
Yeah, I'd probably give it a 5 out of 10 because it was worth watching for Ghostwire Lady alone. Like, she was brilliant. It was a little bit disappointing at first to not get the Evil Within 3, but then, like, it's a new IP and we need those, especially if we're heading into a new gen. And I kind of knew I would be buying Doom Eternal anyway because I enjoyed the first one so much, and this didn't always made me more excited for it, but everything else was... So I'll give it a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, fair enough. Right, we'll move on from probably one of the worst conferences this year to the best, Devolver Digital. 20 out of 10, right there.
You know what? I'm going to jump on that bandwagon. 20 out of 10 too. It was the best meme of the year.
Yeah, they did the Nintendo Direct thing really well. They did quite a good part of it. I mean, it did unveil some games, but to be honest with you, I can't exactly remember what.
Poor guys. See, I didn't really realise they were real games until I looked them up later.
They are legit games.
That's the thing with it. Seamless.
Like, Devolver Digital know that they know they're not big enough to compete with the big leagues of the conferences, but they do show off some decent stuff, and at least they do take advantage of, you know, these resources that they have, and they actually do give everything they can a lot of entertainment value. I do appreciate them for being creative and trying their best to just basically have a ball and have a great sense of humor with it.
Yeah.
It was a nice light alternative to the the real conferences.
I'm just going to fill in with Jacob, and I'm going to automatically have him give it a 20 out of 10 too, so we can just move on.
Yeah, I give it a 20 out of 10. Moving on.
Very good parodies of Nintendo Direct and the video game industry as a whole, just rehashing stuff and delaying everything. But yeah, I mean, there is too much more that can be said, so we should move on to Ubisoft.
Watch Dogs Legion, Watch Dogs Legion. Who let the dogs out? Who? Sorry.
I just want to talk first about how they started the show, because
Watch Dogs.
No. I mean the very start.
Oh, you mean the very start, right?
I mean the Assassin's Creed Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah, you know, I do find that respectful, actually. When I first started watching it, I had a bit of shivers up my spine because I was just thinking, oh shit, they're not going to bring out another pointless Assassin's Creed, are they?
It was so pointless. The entire scene was just a drawn-out orchestra, which fair enough. But then they announced
it was nice.
they're going on tour, and I'm like, why? Why do we
Like
need
some
this?
franchises, some game franchises do have like concerts, like there's Symphony of the Goddess from Zelda. I know Kingdom Hearts has a big orchestra that goes on tour every now and again. That's the stuff that is there. It's just that unlike Kingdom Hearts and Zelda, which have a lot of very memorable and very emotion-driven tracks, Assassin's Creed doesn't really have any of that, does it?
Not really. It's also a very different fan base. Like you've got Kingdom Hearts and Zelda have quite strong cult fan bases. Assassin's Creed, they release a new game every single year.
It was one of those
anyway.
franchises that I was once quite a big fan of,
Yeah.
but I stopped around Black Flag. I think I just couldn't care less.
I think a lot of people are like you. To be honest,
Yeah.
I don't care about it at all.
I really want to check the new ones out, though, the Origins and Odyssey. I reckon that might get me back into it. But like you, I was a big fan, and I kind of was like, this is just the same, so I got a bit bored. But it's a good series overall. I enjoy
They
it.
made a terrible movie.
It's just not my favourite thing
Oh,
ever.
terrible movie.
I liked the film actually, but that's a discussion for a different day, I guess, isn't it?
Yes. But yeah, I'm not quite sure how many of their fan base are actually going to go and watch a tour of the Assassin's Creed songs being played. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Well, classical music is actually getting very popular again now, and a lot of young people
Yeah.
are listening to classic FM. So I guess it's tapping into that
It's
market,
it's
Maybe.
solid
meshing it with
enough.
the whole video game market as well.
A part of me is
Yeah.
guessing that they wanted to give the show a bit of entertainment value, especially if there are any game journalists who are attending it
Yeah.
and probably
Yes.
aren't terribly interested in what they're about to announce. But at least it moves on to a decent segue into probably...
Yes, it's a very good game actually. Probably one of the best games of the entire thing, which is of course the extraordinarily British Watch Dogs Legion.
Core, blimey, governor. Dead sec in London. What are you on? Are you having a laugh?
Downton Abbey and Tea and Biscuits, Harry Potter, Doctor Who,
Strictly Come Dancing, my child.
ITV, Jeremy Kyle, Love Island.
I've got a shotgun. It's pointing right at your todger. But yeah,
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I'm a massive fan of Watch Dogs, so I knew I'd be getting it before they even announced it, to be honest. But I was very impressed by what I saw.
I love the permadeath idea. It's such a unique concept that really brings a new layer to the game and how you can like recruit anyone from off the street. It's so cool and so unique. I just hope they don't Watch Dogs 2014 this and actually do a good job.
It's very unique to me because to me it kind of gets the right core of what Watch Dogs is all about, and it's the idea of these sort of underdogs secretly undercover, kind of using this high class technology that can be used to hack a bunch of different things. It kind of gives that layer and sort of theme of community that I feel like the series kind of desperately needed, because I think Watch Dogs 2 leaned on that for a little bit, but it wasn't enough to that full extent.
I loved it. I loved Watch Dogs 1 and 2. But I was impressed by this because it was just, it's a unique concept. I'm not quite sure it's going to make sense in a storyline.
I can agree to some extent. A part of me also worries that the idea of controlling hundreds of different civilians and characters and assassins is a bit too good to be true, because
I think there will be a limit.
I know the developer, which is Ubisoft Toronto, had been developing the game for well over 3 years. The development probably started around the time when Watch Dogs 2 was well into production by a different developer. I hope it kind of lives up to its potential, because I think there's a lot of fun that can be taken out of this. I mean, for God's sake, you can like take control of an old lady in it.
Yeah, and the setting is very good, isn't it? And it kind of meshes Zombie U a little bit for me as well, which is another Ubisoft game set in London, come out a little while ago, originally on the Wii U, later ported over, and that I really enjoyed.
That has permadeath as well. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, that has similar mechanics in some ways. Definitely.
I'm very, very intrigued by this game. It looks very good. I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Probably my most anticipated game of 2020, just because it is something really cool, and because it's Watch Dogs, a game that I'm already just in love
I'm
with.
legitimately intrigued. I know you, Jacob, played the 2 Watch Dogs games, and I know you, Ned, played the first. This is coming from me, who's not played a Watch Dogs game before, but if the game lives up to its potential, then I could very well be interested in buying Legion, because I dig its concepts. The gameplay looks like a lot of fun. The art style looks really intriguing. I'm not quite sure what they're doing just yet in terms of general story, but I feel like it's taking kind of an Origins route with Ubisoft, in the sense that they're trying to reinvent the wheel a bit, because I think Watch Dogs 2 did okay, but compared to the first one, it was definitely an underperformer. So it's kind of about winning audiences over again a bit.
I'd agree. Yeah. Really excited for it. Yeah.
I also want to bring up Rob McElhenney, who is the creator of Always Sunny, and released a new show. releasing a new show called Mythic Quest.
It's a bit awkward. I remember when we were watching a couple of the conferences one night, and the night before Ubisoft came on, I was making a joke about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So it felt a bit cathartic, coming to my surprise that
speak
the
of the devil
creator
and he
just
shall appear, right?
that the creator just comes on stage and just straight up announces a show. And the show Mr. Crest looks intriguing. I think it's great that they were collaborating with Ubisoft to try and get as authentic of a feel of the gaming industry as possible. I'm getting some vibes from the humor of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but it's also reminded me a lot of shows like the US version of The Office and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, in the sense that it's going for like a bit of a mockumentary take, if you get what I mean, at least.
Yeah, that's kind of what I like about it, to be honest. It looks very, very interesting, and I really want to see more of it, to be honest with you. The little clip they showed, I thought was pretty entertaining, pretty funny, pretty good. So
it seems weirdly self-aware, and I can tell they're gonna take some game industry jokes and just take the absolute piss out of it. I believe it's going to be a show that's going to be launching with Apple TV Plus,
Indeed,
which is going to be a new streaming service that's coming out at the end of the year. And this is a completely different topic for another day regarding some of my concerns with general television streaming services, but it looks very fun and intriguing. And yeah, it was something I'd never expected to come out of a gaming conference, the announcement of a TV show. But yeah, it's cool to
really
see.
Cool. They also announced Adventure Time in a free Steam game called Brawlhalla, and literally no one cared.
Adventure Time ended like last year, didn't it? I know Adventure Time has a huge fan base, but the show's well and done. And I'm also very well aware that Adventure Time has had quite a huge series of video games, most of which are pretty mediocre, but they exist.
Yeah, Brawlhalla's a pretty cool game, though. It's a free Steam game, sort of like in the vein of like Smash Brothers or something, that kind of fighting game mechanic. It's a pretty cool thing, and
Didn't Cartoon Network produce like a Smash Brothers clone that turned out to be a bit crap?
Oh, I can't remember.
Because it's on like at the back of my memory.
I mean, Brawlhalla's alright for what it is. As a free game, you can't really complain too much. It's not that bad. Right, what else was there? There was a lot, and I mean a lot, of Tom Clancy.
Yeah. Breakpoint is coming out, so we got more gameplay for that. We also got an announcement, Rainbow Six Quarantine, and we didn't get bloody Splinter Cell.
Right, yeah.
You had like tons of unrealistic expectations there. There was also an announcement during this bit that Netflix are collaborating with Ubisoft to produce a film adaptation of the Division series. It's going to star, I believe, Jessica Chastain and Jake Gyllenhaal, and it's also going to be directed by David Leitch, who is the director behind such films as Deadpool 2, John Wick, and what's coming out this August, Fast and Furious, Hobbs and Shaw.
Yes.
It seems to have like the right talent, I guess, that's going to be on it.
Chastain's a great actress, and David Leitch I'm a massive fan of as well, judging the films he's done. But then I've heard the Division story is a bit bare bones and a little bit crap from some of my friends. I'm not sure if it's going to work in a film sense.
I have a feeling it's going to be one of those games where if it turns out to be alright, you could just watch it and it'll probably exit your conscious the second
It'll probably be watchable, because it'll be like an militaristic action film, but I shouldn't think it will win Oscars.
Yeah, we also got a Tom Clancy Elite Squad, which is a mobile game featuring a bunch of the stars,
including Sam Fisher, but still no damn bloody mainline Splinter Cell game.
We got Rainbow Six Quarantine, which looks to be the sequel to Rainbow Six.
The trailer was good, actually. I've got to hand it to them, because I was like, oh, what's this, when it said Rainbow Six, and I thought a bit, but the trailer did look good, I must admit. So perhaps it might be an interesting game, we'll see.
They showed so much Tom Clancy in it, and I have no problem with the Tom Clancy concept, because I know a lot of people do love it, but at the same time, they showed off so much of it that it's not really a Ubisoft conference, it might as well just be called the Tom Clancy conference.
Yeah, basically.
It might just be me, I don't know how any of you feel.
No, I get that. I mean, we also got some new episodic content for Division 2, which looks okay, I guess.
Yeah, free content for those who have it, it's always a good
Rainbow
thing.
Six Phantom Site Operators look fine, I guess. There's nothing more I can really say.
What other Tom Clancy stuff came up? Because I've completely lost track.
I think that's more or less it, but we did get a new IP called Roller Champions, which is sort of Ubisoft's answer to Rocket League. Reminds me a little bit of Steep as well, which I love. Really underrated game.
It just reminds me of Elite the Battle Angel.
Yeah.
It looks like the motorball sequence from that film, actually, and it was probably
exactly.
And it was probably one of the only parts of that film that actually had much entertainment value. Actually,
You're not
as
wrong
well.
there. Yeah, I mean that scene was easily my favorite in the movie, and that says a lot about how bad it was. But it does look quite interesting. It looks like a quite cool little concept. So we'll see
Yeah.
how that works. It is available now, so you can go and buy it and stuff.
It's a free-to-play game, actually.
It's
I'm
it's
to
in
correct you
alpha, I
there.
think. So you can just go and
Yeah.
play that, test it out, see if you like it or not.
There's also a brand new Just Dance title because
Yes,
there has
still
to be.
coming out on the Wii.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah,
They
of
had like
course
a
it is.
dance and everything in the middle of the show. It was a little bit awkward, but it was funny.
they've had it like every single year. They always have like these incredibly awkward dances every
Yeah.
single year.
Yeah, it's just their thing, isn't it? I kind of wanted like a really elaborate one with like a guy getting shot out of a cannon and knife throwers, fire jugglers and sword throwers, just so it's like whatever they do next year, they can't top it. But alas, it wasn't the year for that. As well as it wasn't the year for Splinter Cell. Did I mention that already? I think I did.
Yeah, I think you did. One more thing that came out was, of course, Ghost Recon for Tom Clancy.
Yeah, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, isn't it? Yeah, looks fine.
Yeah,
actually.
we also got a Terminator skin for it as well.
I mean, cool, I guess.
Yeah. We also got Delta Company, which is a message board forum type place. It kind of reminds me of something like Miiverse, but only for Ghost Recon.
There is definitely one which I
Yeah.
do want to touch upon, and it was what the end of the show
Gods and
on was
Monsters.
the Assassin's Creed Origins developer came on stage to announce this exciting new project that they were working on, and from the looks of it, the Origins team have crafted something that looks artistically akin to Zelda Breath of the Wild in a sense.
Looked a bit more like Kid Icarus to me as well.
Yeah, it looks like this brand new IP, which is going to be it looks like it's going to be an open world action adventure game that's going to be featuring a more semi-cartoonish art style with a lot of emphasis on a lot of bright colours and Greek mythology. And it's meant to be coming out relatively soon for a game that's just been announced.
The 25th of February, according to my notes.
Yeah.
On 2020, yeah. So it's not terribly far away, which I think is kind of worrisome considering we still don't have much information on what Gods and Monsters is going to be. But I genuinely do like what I'm seeing. The art direction looks wonderful. I think the idea shows a lot of potential. Part of me is concerned if it's going to have much quality to stand out because I feel so much of Nintendo's IPs of Kid Icarus and Zelda definitely in there, but it looks exciting. It's coming out on all platforms. I think it's debuting on the Switch as well. So
yeah the thing
cool
is, obviously, I really wanted them to end on a new Splinter Cell, and they didn't, and I think that's a shame because it left a sour taste in my mouth at the end of the show for a game that I should have given a proper chance because it does look lovely, a really beautiful art style. But yeah, it's just because there's just this negativeness over me because of that, and that's a shame. But yeah, it does look cool. I'm interested to see more. We haven't seen much of it yet.
Yeah.
But I think there's definitely a gap in the market for a game like that on the other consoles apart from Nintendo because of the style of it. So we'll wait and see. So we see more gameplay, but it's a good team behind it as well. He made Odyssey, so it looks good.
If we're moving on to ratings and stuff,
shall I start it?
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna go straight to the middle of the road and give it a 5. I know that most people think that Ubisoft won E3, and for the people who are generally interested in a lot of the games that were shown up, I'm glad that they have, because it's a standard Ubisoft conference as far as I'm concerned. There wasn't much that most people probably wouldn't have been expecting from what they usually deliver. I just feel like compared to 2017's and to some case 2018's, it just kind of fell a bit flat. If you're a fan of Tom Clancy, you're going to absolutely adore this conference because like a whole hour of it was dedicated to just Tom Clancy.
Pretty much.
As far as the show's concerned, it was decent enough to watch. It had a bit more of an entertainment value to it. I like how they gave it a little bit more passion and drive than especially what Bethesda was able to give. It's fine. I probably won't remember much of it at all except for Watch Dogs and Gods and Monsters, but at least those two are very good.
I'm going to go 6. I'm going to go a bit higher. I think there's quite a lot of stuff here that does actually raise my eyebrows and stuff. And although I may not really care too much for the Tom Clancy games, at least they got shown in there because I know a lot of people are going to be interested in it. That's going to be quite interesting to see. Bogged down by a bunch of stuff that kind of doesn't really make much sense to me, like the start and stuff like the mobile Tom Clancy, which is a bit weird, but okay. And quite a lot of focus towards DLC and expansions to games as opposed to actual new games shown. But yeah, overall, not a bad conference at all. Pretty decent, in fact.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 6 as well. It was a bit of a one game show for me as well, but that one game was brilliant. And a couple of other interesting tidbits here and there as well. And like Gods and Monsters, I'm a bit more interested to see now. I kind of regret not giving it a proper chance, seeing it live for the first time. But yeah, a fine conference, nothing really like mind blowing, but I was never like truly bored. So
to me,
not too
everything
bad.
about it kind of feels like what Ubisoft represents themselves as a studio, because they aren't a terrible publisher or anything. They definitely have their highlights. Like 2017 in particular had Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle and South Park: The Fractured Butthole, which were both probably some of the better games of that year.
Yeah.
But like it's just sort of the fact that they like to repurpose a lot of their brands a lot, because they just generally play it a bit too safe for my eyes. I mean,
think
we still
so, yeah.
we still get Just Dance games on the bloody Wii. That's how safe they take it.
Well, yeah.
But it was decent. But let's move on to anime
still no
time.
Splinter Cell. 0 out of 10.
Yeah. Let's move on to the weebs, people.
Right, Square Enix. Yeah, they basically started off with what was got to be one of their most hyped games, Final Fantasy VII, which is going to be 2 Blu-ray discs full of content.
It is a remake though, not a remaster. I think
It's definitely a remake, because unlike the original game, which had a turn-based combat system,
Yeah, it's a lot more like hack and slash, like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta or something.
I've noticed a lot of vibes from stuff like Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy, especially Final Fantasy 15, with how it has some hack and slash elements, but it also has some cool features like how you can stop time for a bit to kind of to scan enemies, plan out your move sets. It looks a little bit intimidating, I will admit, to learn, but it also feels like something that I can tell can be extremely rewarding to master, especially.
I just can't believe how much like content's going to be in this game. Like back in the days of the PS1, doubling up discs and stuff was quite common. You'd get games with 2 or 3 discs. I think Final Fantasy VII actually did have 3 discs originally, but like to do it in the days of Blu-ray is just staggering to me, honestly.
But no, they seem to be taking, as far as I think they've confirmed, 2 whole Blu-ray discs to fit in the content, which feels absolutely mad to me. I mean, take for example a game like Red Dead Redemption 2. I think the file size for that game is well over 100 gigabytes, but it's still compact enough to fit into a single Blu-ray disc. But if the whole 2 Blu-ray disc thing is to be desired, we're looking at a pretty goddamn huge game here.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, I'm really, really hyped to see how it's going to be. It looks gorgeous, it looks beautiful, and yeah, I just really want this.
Yeah, loads of really good character models as well.
And then for about an hour, we had nothing, basically. Basically nothing I was interested in whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, we'll skim through some stuff. Dying Light 2 is still on the way, coming out spring 2020. That trailer looked good. It looks pretty strong, actually, from that trailer.
Again, though, it was shown at Microsoft, which is the problem.
But it was a bit more prominent here, I think. I think they've revealed
this was a
like their
different
release
trailer as well.
their release windows, I believe, spring 2020. I've never played the original game, but I've heard some solid things about it. It doesn't look too different from what we've already seen last year, though, which I think is a bit of a concern.
Yeah.
But it shows some promise.
Still some sort of muddy textures and things, but then that'll be polished when it comes out nearer to the time.
But that's like the depressing thing to me, because like Dying Light 2 was one of the more significant things I remember, because looking back over the conference, I barely remember much about it. A lot of it is either remakes, remasters, sequels to games that weren't terribly significant, or just straight up games that just had zero appeal to me.
There was a heck ton of Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, wasn't there?
Yeah, but it wasn't like the Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy that most people would normally get excited over. It was either like remasters of like Final Fantasy VIII, or something like a sequel to Dragon Quest Builders, or some very insanely obscure side game. Like even stuff like Kingdom Hearts 3, like the Remind DLC that we're getting, that trailer already came out a few days before the conference came out, so it felt like they were afraid to make any major announcements, even though they gave themselves an entire press conference. Also, plus the fact that I have a gut feeling a speculation that they probably took up the stage space that Sony had bought out before they decided to just opt out of E3 this year.
Yeah, basically. They had stuff like the pointless Life is Strange 2 trailer, so that's
yeah. And there was the update to that Final Fantasy 14 online game, which is giving me Vietnam flashbacks to Elder Scrolls in the sense
most
that
overproduced cinematic trailer I've ever seen. I think
it went on for so goddamn long as well.
Solid 10 minutes at least. Jesus, went on. Hated it.
Sega Scarlet Grace. Okay.
We got a new game called Outriders from the people who made Bulletstorm.
Yeah,
that's a fair point.
That one could be pretty decent. I'm not sure exactly what to expect from that, but yeah.
That's the depressing thing about the conference to me. I'm sure for like the most hardcore Square Enix fans, they're going to get what they're getting. It was mostly just a lot of fluff that didn't warrant a huge show, if you get what I mean.
Basically, yeah. But that was the biggest problem. They had like an indie showcase, which looked pretty decent. Octopath Traveler is going to come to PC.
Which is a bit pointless because I'm pretty sure Octopath Traveler was the sole reason quite a set few people actually bought Switches in the first place.
The Last Remnant Remastered, which apparently came to Switch as soon as the show ended, so that's pretty cool, I guess.
That's cool, yeah.
Right.
There isn't really too much more to say, apart from one thing.
Crystal Dynamics have came back.
We're in the end game now, folks.
Yeah.
We are in the end game now.
I'll just set up the scene for you, but the last time we saw Crystal Dynamics, they made Rise of the Tomb Raider. Crystal Dynamics got under a bit of flack for stuff that was unnecessary because Xbox acquired year one exclusivity for Rise of the Tomb Raider, which I know pissed off quite a lot of people. But after a little bit of what seems like a brief hiatus or a very long development cycle on their project that we're about to talk about, they've come back after a collaboration with Marvel Games to bring us a brand new IP iteration for the Avengers, actually.
Very
May
interesting.
15th, 2020 as well. We got a release date, which I'm quite surprised we got, really.
Yeah, this is a brand new take on the formula, not related to the movies whatsoever, really. New story. There's going to be free DLC of new heroes.
Slightly
which is
different
really cool.
characters design-wise to the films as well.
I know some people are a little bit off-put by some of the designs. Like, I'll admit I found some of the characters awkward. I mean, for God's sakes, I looked at Bruce Banner, and the first thing that come up to my head was bloody Jared Fogle. that guy who got convicted. That guy who was like the spokesperson for Subway sandwiches and did some pretty naughty shit.
Yeah, Jared, the Subway guy. Yeah, he appeared on WWE Raw once upon a time as well. Like,
oh god,
crazy.
Anyway, we've got some in-game cinematics of that, and a talk with the cast, and honestly, they put a lot of their show into this, which is very interesting and very cool. I think it was a very good reveal, but it may or may not have gone on a little bit too long in my eyes.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I wasn't blown away. The reason is because it feels like a game that's a bit too little too late, if I'm honest. Well, we had the Ultimate Alliance games that had like a big cast. The other thing is that if you look at this compared to the films, there's going to be DLC later with like new characters and stuff, which is coming out for free, which is good. But at the same time, like, it's like the original Avengers film, and at this point we've had Endgame. It feels a little bit late in my eyes.
I mean, yeah, but this is a brand new story. Yeah, this is like completely cut off from the.
I get
all
that.
the
Yeah,
films.
it just feels.
You're also.
Yeah,
I can agree with you to some extent because Tony Stark. It's hard to buy Tony Stark in this game or most pieces of media anymore because of how much Robert Downey Jr. just sort of molded the character into who we know him as now. But even then, like, the cast isn't terrible. Like, yeah, the designs are a bit awkward at first, but I think considering their new iterations, you have to kind of get used to them quite well. Plus, the cast itself is pretty damn terrific. They got some of the most current leading game actors. Like, they got Troy Baker as Banner, they got Laura Bailey as Black Widow, Travis Willingham as Thor, Nolan North, aka Nathan Bloody Drake as Tony Stark. And I have no idea who the other one is, but I'm guessing he's playing Cap.
Feels a bit like the Avengers of voice actors, funnily enough.
I mean, yeah, literally, these are like some of the absolute heavyweights in the world of voiceover acting and stuff, especially in gaming. Like Troy Baker was Joel in Last of Us. Nolan North was
Bioshock.
Laura Bailey was actually Nadine from Uncharted 4 and The Lost Legacy.
Yeah, and Fetch from Infamous as well is what I'm most
Travis Willingham is the current voice actor for Knuckles in the Sonic the Hedgehog series, so he's a big team player too.
Yeah.
Some fantastic names here that could really do characters well. So
that's cool.
Having just one of these is quite noticeable. Having all of them, in my eyes, is a complete seller. So I'm pretty sold on Avengers, but
I do agree that it's nothing particularly mind-blowing, but at the same time, I'm remembering back to the huge development cycle that Insomniac Spider-Man had. Marvel Games was also involved in that game in the sense that they were allowing the developers to license and use their characters.
Yeah, it didn't have to sell a film or a different product.
I remember not being amazingly blown away by Spider-Man, but it wasn't until the game came out and I tried it for myself and basically fell in love with it. I feel like we just have to kind of wait and see on Avengers, because similarly to Insomniac, Crystal Dynamics are legit very good developers. It's just that they don't get as much of a fair recognition, and that they especially never did with Rise of the Tomb Raider, because they basically got a lot of flack for something they had no control over, and that was the publishing distribution problem.
Yeah, the gameplay itself is described also as continuous single player experience, which sounds intriguing. We didn't see gameplay as such. We saw a few cutscenes, but is it going to be like Destiny? We don't quite know, do we?
I think we saw some very brief gameplay snippets in the trailer, during transitions and shit, but I'm guessing they're gonna let us play as the 5 characters, like Black Widow, Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, and Hulk. I'm guessing they're gonna have us play as all of them in it. I'm not quite sure how they're gonna do that, because a part of me worries, especially in game design nowadays, that too many gameplay styles and too many characters can be a little bit intimidating, and perhaps it won't give enough focus and craft to fully flesh all of it out. But I'm looking forward to it, actually. It's coming out within the next year.
It's not my most anticipated game, to be honest. I'd rather play Watch Dogs and Cyberpunk over it. But I will check it out, definitely.
But I am definitely willing to give it a go, because it was one of the only things during this conference that A, I was really looking forward to, and B, was actually worth any goddamn merit.
Yeah, certainly the most memorable thing.
Essentially, yeah. That's kind of my thing with Square Enix. I'm really interested in Avengers. Final Fantasy looks really good, but apart from that, there's nothing here that I really like. I mean, there's so much focus on Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
That's really what the problem was. They just focus so much on that one franchise and not all their others. If you're going to do that, there's no real point of having a show if you're just going to focus so heavily on one franchise.
Let's just get the ratings out of the way, because I'm sick and tired of talking about these people. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. I'll give it a 4, but for the main reason is I don't think it was a particularly horrible show, because Avengers showed a ton of great promise. Plus, what did they open the show on again?
Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah, that's those were the only 2 bits that showed any true highlight and promise to me. And the rest of the show was mostly dedicated to a lot of side stuff that could have been announced any other time other than a time where it's about big announcements and big unveils and development updates and a lot of stuff that most people legitimately care about, which I find a little bit awkward to say, because I looked on Twitter shortly after the conference ended and a lot of people did genuinely enjoy the conference. And it was at that point when I realized that this conference, similarly to Ubisoft, was probably not for me. But I'll give Ubisoft a bit of the upper hand, because they did try their best to make the show at least entertaining. This was just downright boring.
Yeah, it was boring. There wasn't too much that really interested me either. As I say, so much Final Fantasy focus isn't really a good thing, because if you don't like that, there isn't too much here for you. And I think that's I think variety is the key with these conferences. I mean, I quite like Outriders, Avengers, and Final Fantasy. I think look pretty interesting. But apart from that, there isn't really anything here that I like, and that's why my final rating for Square Enix is a broken marriage out of 10.
I won't bore you with the details, but 4 out of 10 for me. Like variety, I get I'm not the target audience. I'm quite a casual gamer, really. But yeah, apart from Avengers, nothing really grabbed me. That's all.
Falls across the board then. I think we're all giving it a 4 out of 10. So Square Enix and Bethesda are bad, to be honest. They're just not interesting and just, I don't know, a bit meh. Not terrible, just not particularly great. But what is particularly great, actually, Nintendo really surprised me with how good this was.
This was probably the best show of this entire conference, and you know what? It's a massive upgrade compared to last year, because A, it's 40 minutes long this time instead of what was 20, I think, last time. And B, they actually did not hesitate right at the beginning to actually get some exciting meaty stuff out of the way, which was the introduction of 2 brand new Smash fighters, actually. Well, that's just killed 2 birds with one stone with this one.
Okay, fine. So we'll start off with Dragon Quest Hero. It's kind of one I saw coming. I didn't really expect there to not be a Dragon Quest character in Smash at this point in time, especially considering these are all series that are going to be brand new to Smash Brothers. No characters are in this series
You
ever,
you also have to remember that it's another swordsman fighter, and that probably makes it easier for Masahiro Sakurai and his team to kind of develop, because, I mean, look at the amount of Fire Emblem characters with swords, for God's sake.
So yeah, I don't know. It's quite interesting, I guess. But
the big surprise, I think most people just predicted we'd just get the announcement of one new fighter, but near the end, they actually gave another one.
Banjo-Kazooie. Very, very, very cool.
I did not see it coming, and I feel like it's a great thing, because I think we all know that Microsoft and Nintendo have been getting a little bit more Bud-like recently with some collaborations. I mean, for one thing, they've brought crossplay with Fortnite and stuff like that. They've brought a Switch port for Cuphead, and now it seems like they're allowing Nintendo to kind of have their hand in some of their own properties, which include Rare's own Banjo-Kazooie, which is amazing, actually.
Now I'm just waiting for the Minecraft Steve announcement for Smash Brothers.
Yeah, that's great. But yeah, both were solid announcements. People were expecting Dragon Quest, which is fine. I think most people just blew their shit at Banjo, and I kind of did too, because he was one of the fighters I was kind of hoping would be there.
How they announced Banjo was great. Like, they just had his silhouette and then was like, nah, not really, because it's the Duck Hunt dog and the bird playing a prank, and then just came in from the sky and was like, oh my god, that was perfect.
Did you notice how DK, Diddy, and K. Rool's faces when they saw Banjo was basically how every Nintendo fan looked when they revealed?
That was literally how I looked. It's like, oh my god, they actually did it. I did not think they would. I genuinely did not think that they'd ever do it, honestly.
And following the Smash reveal, they actually introduced the Nintendo heads again, including the recent introduction to our new head of Nintendo of America, Doug Bowser. Yeah, and he succeeded Reggie Fils-Aimé after he retired earlier this year. Rest in peace, my poor soul.
As well as the actual Bowser, who just wanted to host. Bowser just wanted to be the new Philip Schofield.
It was amazing how they were in on the joke, and it was funny in that sort of cheesy self-aware Nintendo way.
In a way, you can't not at least acknowledge it. You know, your main character's villain literally has the exact same name as your new president. You can't not acknowledge that. You just can't.
Yeah, but it was a great segue to kick things off. It was a great way of introducing Doug Bowser, because I think for a lot of people it was probably admittedly a little difficult to Reggie is such a huge influencer in the world of Nintendo. There were memes spread about him. He embraced his community so much. And I feel it's a great introduction to Doug Bowser, because he seems like a relatively nice chap, and I feel like he's going to bring some good stuff to Nintendo, absolutely. And you know what? It was a good segue into the first major game they were talking about, which was Luigi's Mansion 3.
Very, very interesting, this. They showed some new mechanics, like the slam mechanic. And
the suck.
And the suck. They showed Luigi having the suck. And also Guigi, which is like a sort of faux Luigi thing you can do. It looks quite interesting. I will say I'm probably gonna get it at some point.
Yeah, I like how the setting's a hotel this time. It's gonna give it a bit more of an identity over the first two games. I'm a bit of a late bloomer to Luigi's Mansion, because I played the first game when it came out on the 3DS earlier last year. Really enjoyed my time with it. I wasn't a big fan of 2. I think the level design is definitely upped in Luigi's Mansion 2, and I like a lot more of the mansion variety and some of the cool new ghosts and some of the new shit you could do with it. It was the mission-based structure of that game that basically killed any enjoyment I had with it, because that meant that there were no checkpoints, and if you died late into a mission in Luigi's Mansion 2, one that you could spend more than maybe half an hour on, and you get bumped right back to the beginning, it's basically a motivation killer and ever making me want to finish that game. But 3 looks promising. I fear that it might go into the mission structure again, because it's on Switch, it's about portability, but I like the visual design and it looks quite cool.
They also announced the Dark Crystal game and movie for Netflix as well.
Yeah, because it's not a big shock to me, because I think it's going to happen sometime soon, but Netflix said they were going to attend E3 to talk about adapting some of their original series into video games, and we've already getting one fairly soon with the Stranger Things 3 game, which I believe is going to be released released coinciding with the release of season 3 on Netflix. So, and we also know that we're getting a prequel series to The Dark Crystal on here. The game kind of looks a little crap, though. It looks like a bit of a cheap shot tactics game.
Didn't seem to have a lot of identity, did it?
I mean, I guess kind of.
Yeah, I have so little to say about it. I actually feel as motivated as you guys do. Let's just move on.
Yeah. They have
You see, I haven't actually got a Switch, but there is one Switch exclusive coming out very soon, which I really am hoping for like a multi-platform release, and that is Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3: The Black
It's
Order.
not happening.
The first two were my favourite games for a while, actually. I used to be a massive Marvel fan, more so than I am now, I think.
It feels a little bit underwhelming looking back on it, honestly, because everything that this game looks like looks miles better with what Crystal Dynamics are doing with their Avengers project now, but...
Yeah, I get what you mean, yeah. I think they are slightly different, though. This one's more of a Diablo kind of game rather than an action single-player and co-op experience.
But, yeah, it looks cool. There's one game I do want to touch about. Okay, I'll just set the scene here. It was a game that was announced at the last Nintendo Direct. I was going absolutely crazy when I was starting to see all of the cool visual iconography, and then the gameplay played, and it just turned to absolute shit for me, and that was the remake for Link's Awakening.
Yeah, I agree. I will say, though, that the dungeon building mechanic that they showed off is really, really cool. I think that's really interesting.
It looks great, but I'm just sort of looking at it. I'm not a huge fan of the art style to begin with. I get they're wanting to making it look a little simpler to pay more homage to the original Game Boy game. And even then, when I'm looking at the game, it looks like Link's Awakening, and Link's Awakening is actually my favorite 2D Zelda. Actually, it's one of my all-time favorite portable games. Actually, but at the same time, it doesn't feel, other than the dungeon builder, that it's adding much new to the original game. A lot of the level design and what I'm seeing that I'm familiar with looks identical to what the original game already did.
Link just looks exactly like a Funko Pop.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
I didn't like the characters either, to be honest. It looks a bit too cutesy and too...
It's a bit weird to me, though, because Zelda can do cutesy. Like, the Wind Waker has a very simple cutesy and cartoony art style, but unlike Link's Awakening, Wind Waker was kind of built from the outset to be like that anyway, so it was able to work with that to its advantage. Link's Awakening had an art style that was meant to be a lot more akin to the original NES games, unlike A Link to the Past, so it doesn't even feel like it has the right artistic merits to make it all truly work to me.
I think it's going to be a pretty cool game. I mean, a Link's Awakening remake is always good in my book, even if the art style
it's not terrible. It's a fantastic game. I might even buy it, but I'm slowly starting to not care about it.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, they announced that Witcher 3 is going to be coming to Switch, which I think is really, really big news.
Yeah, and the complete edition, which is extra impressive considering what a big game it is.
Yeah, it's an amazing addition, really, and I'm surprised they could get it on Switch, because The Witcher 3 is an absolute behemoth, even bigger so than something like Skyrim.
It's one of the most well-received games of all time. It's absolutely fantastic. So I'm really, really glad to see that they're actually bringing it to Switch.
There's also been several other remasters that are coming to it.
There was like a montage, wasn't there, with loads.
There's the remasters coming for the Mana series, for one thing, which is nice to have.
There's a new collection out now, the collection of Mana, which looks pretty cool, and it's got the new one as well.
There's also the remasters for the Resident Evil series, fortunately 5 and 6.
Yeah, of all the ones you could choose, 5 and 6, like... Why?
And there was also a showcase of several other ports coming, including
Alien Isolation, surprisingly.
It all includes like a remastered Switch ports for stuff like the Spyro Reignited trilogy.
Doom Eternal for Switch.
Yeah, and Switch port for Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch, which is actually one of my all-time favourite RPGs.
Spyro and Dead by Daylight were also on the montage.
It's all great stuff. In terms of ports, they hit it out of the park completely.
There was some new Sword and Shield news, which surprised me, since we already had the direct, not.
Plus, we already had that press conference from the Pokemon Company covering basically all Pokemon related news for the year, really,
including a Pokeball.
It's the Pokeball Plus accessory that they had bundled with some copies of like Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. I don't like the feature. Like, I genuinely screw the Pokeball, because they specifically restricted you from ever obtaining a Mew in Let's Go unless you had that bloody 50 quid accessory that was probably sometimes in cases they were priced more so than the actual game itself. I
remember when Heart Gold and Soul Silver came out originally for the DS, it came with like a NAF pedometer thing.
Screw that ball.
Yeah, just load attack. Honestly, complete load of
I'm
tat.
looking forward to Sword and Shield. It looks bloody great, but screw that ball.
They also announced a water type gym leader,
Yeah,
which
that-
looks pretty cool.
I like the art style of the game. Actually, it's going for a very UK feel. I like little details like how they have the gyms look like football stadiums, which is a nice touch actually.
And each of the 3 starters are based on sports that are quite popular in the UK. So Score Bunny's football, Grookey is cricket, and Sobble is
Who cannot
water
love
polo, I think.
Sobble?
Not sure.
Sobble looks so cute.
Sobble's great. Sobble master race. What else we get? We've got a Contra collection, which
Yeah,
looks pretty
fine.
cool.
And then there's Daemon Ex Machina, which is still what I like to call sensory overload, the video game.
Yeah, a bunch of like really big mech fights.
There was also an update on the Platinum Games title exclusively coming to Switch, which is Astral Chain, which looks a little bit generic, but considering it's coming from a great developer, I have some hope for it. Oh yeah, and just one more thing before we get to the last.
No More Heroes 3, I'd like to briefly touch upon, sorry. Yeah, I've always wanted to play it, but it's always been a Wii game, so I've not had the chance, having not owned a Switch. But it looks cool. I love the art style. Really cool sort of R-rated comic book feel.
Just one more thing I want to mention before we get to the last 2 big games that were shown off near the end. I thought this series was dead like about 4 years ago, but we seem to be getting another Mario and Sonic Olympic title.
Yeah, fine, I guess. It is made for the fans, I guess, isn't it? The casual families.
It was kind of inevitable, to be honest with you. They have one at every Olympic Games.
I have no beef against them really, because like the original Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, the Winter Games, and London 2012, they were, in my opinion, really solid party games. They don't have much of an identity to them, but when I was a lot younger, they were good fun for what they were. I did not like Rio 2016. And then there was Sochi 2014, which had no identity of its own, and they even actually skipped out on the recent Winter Olympics we had a year ago. So clearly something was up with this franchise, but now that it's on a more of a lucrative system this time, they seem to be having another jab at it, I'm guessing.
I think we all know exactly what to expect, so there isn't really too much to really go into. But yeah, it's just a new Mario Sonic at the Olympic Games, really.
Just before the actual direct ended, Nintendo actually went out of their way to bring an update onto a game that we know that's coming out, and one that's now being reportedly in development. The first one I think we should look into is Animal Crossing New Horizons.
I think the games for the portable systems work a lot better than the one for the GameCube and stuff, because it just helps so much to have them wherever you go. And I think on Switch, incorporating the whole...
In the words of Bruce Banner, best of both worlds.
Basically, yeah. But no, it is a really, really cool looking thing. So yeah, having it on both systems just really completes it, I think.
I don't really have much to say about it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's Animal Crossing. It's sort of meant to be very laid back, very cutesy, very charming game.
Yeah.
It's not something that you're meant to be taking seriously. It's just sort of meant to be very chill, very relaxing, and just sort of very wholesome. It's coming out in March 2020. I think they said it was meant to be coming out in 2019, but it seems like Nintendo are being fair and not overworking the dev team. They're going to take the time they can to make it the best game they can, which, like anything, I find respectable. It's just general good work ethic to me.
But yeah, they also released the new gameplay trailer for Breath of the Wild.
Sequel for Breath of the Wild.
It wasn't necessarily a gameplay trailer, more so that it's the fact that it's basically acknowledging that they're making a sequel to Breath of the Wild, which...
It's more like a teaser trailer, wasn't it? With Link and Zelda around a dungeon or something of some sort. I couldn't quite make it
was a
out.
pleasant surprise because I never saw it coming. Breath of the Wild is such a fantastic game because it was more so a reinvention of the Zelda formula. It was the first time they went fully open world instead of like the more traditional Ocarina of Time sort of style in 3D that we've been having for a while.
Yeah.
From the looks of it, they're seeming to want to expand their world a bit, but also give it a bit more of a story flair this time. And I have a feeling Nintendo's going to try their best to try and get a good story out this time, if you get what I mean at least. It looks visually great, just like the original game does. There's not much to really say about it. It's more so just acknowledgement that a second game's coming. But if there's anything that's been taken out of it, at least for me, it's at least confirming to me that Breath of the Wild was a big hit, and it seems like this open world style that we've been having in this series with that game is now probably going to be front and center what the future of the Zelda franchise is going to be, which is refreshing because I don't know anybody that didn't like Breath of the Wild.
I don't think is going to be coming out anytime soon, which is pretty good because it just gives people more time to play the original Breath of the Wild, which is still fantastic. But no, the sequel, it looks honestly just good from what we saw, and I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, but you know what? It's a great ending to what's probably my favorite conference of that entire show. I'll just throw out my final rating for this one, and I'm going to give it a bang on solid 8. There's a tiny bit of pointless fluff in there that didn't necessarily need to be put in.
Dragon Quest.
And stuff.
More
that
Dragon
includes
Quest.
stuff like Fire Emblem and stuff like that again. Seriously, when I saw Dragon Quest on there, I was thinking if I see one more bloody Dragon Quest announcement, I'm going to bloody scream. But for the most time, in between some of that tiny bit of pointless fluff, there was a lot of genuine great announcements,
Yeah.
some updates on some games that I've wanted to hear from for a good while, and the fact that we've now got confirmation on another big mainline Zelda, and one that's probably come from the best Zelda we've had since Majora's Mask, is fantastic to me. It's everything I kind of wanted out of a conference from Nintendo, especially considering last year was just more focused on pointless fluff, a really great segment dedicated to Smash Brothers, and then that was basically it. I've never felt more unfulfilled than I did when I was watching Nintendo, but it was a great conference and definitely a great way to end all of the big shows now that the big flood doors have been opened up into the E3 convention center.
I'm going to give it an 8 as well. I think most of what we're showing off here is absolutely fantastic. I mean, we've got like 2 new Smash characters, Luigi's Mansion, No More Heroes, even stuff like Alien Isolation and Spyro, which was just shown in the highlight reel. But honestly, there's so much stuff here that I absolutely love. So yeah, very much a solid 8. I think it could have possibly ended and started a bit stronger rather than ending with a game which is years away and starting with Dragon Quest. But aside from that, no, there's a lot of great stuff here. 8 solid 8 in my book.
Yeah, I'm going to say 8 as well. I'll just echo the sentiments that have already been said, to be honest. Yeah, it was very enjoyable, very solid. I don't own a Switch, obviously, so it didn't affect me as much as you two on a personal level, but I still enjoyed what I saw, and yeah, I was never bored. It was quite captivating at points as well, so yeah, solid 8 for me as well.
But yeah, looking over basically all of that, now that we've talked about 5 shows, that's basically E3 2019.
Well, hey.
Generally a mixed bag. 2 really good shows, 2 really shit shows, and one that's just straight down the middle. Essentially.
Yeah, basically.
There was some solid highlights, but weirdly it felt very similar to 2018 to me. There was a lot of really great highlights, stuff like mainline Zelda, Keanu in Cyberpunk.
We did get quite a few new IPs here and there as well, which was always good to see. You know, we need fresh ideas, fresh directions, don't we? Especially if there's a next gen around the corner. It's always a good thing.
Yeah, but it's generally a mixed bag because at the same time there are a lot of disappointing reveals. I think Bethesda really should have just sat this one out. They had no major reason to have a conference here. I could legitimately say the same for Square actually as well.
So who do we think won E3 then?
Nintendo.
Yeah, I agree, Nintendo. Although, like, my highlights individual game-wise would be Watch Dogs and Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
And Doom as well, perhaps to a lesser extent, but I'm also looking forward to Doom, and that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, for me, definitely Nintendo won. But yeah, I'd say I'm very much looking forward to the new Watch Dogs, and especially how it looks like it's not going to be based to the first 2 games. It's going to be based around Brexit. I think that sounds quite interesting.
Watch Dogs, let's go kill Theresa May with our hacking devices.
Basically, yeah.
There were some games that did won me over. I didn't have much interest for Cyberpunk 2077. I only ever really knew about that game because of the absolute hype that was built around Witcher fans. But the inclusion of Keanu and a lot of the creative promises of that game has basically sold me on it. I am definitely interested in giving Avengers a try, even if it hasn't blown me out of the water. Final Fantasy VII looks terrific. A lot of stuff from Nintendo looks great. Luigi's Mansion 3 and Animal Crossing, and begrudgingly Link's Awakening to some extent, even if the art style is complete ass.
Yeah.
What stuff that does work does, in my opinion, just sort of slightly outweigh the bad. So even if we aren't doing it, I'm just going to give the overall rating for E3 as a whole just 6, generally.
I'd go 5. Too many cinematic trailers, not enough actual gameplay. It felt a little bit pointless in places. Obviously there's a next gen coming, and that's why there wasn't so much that really drew interest from me, apart from some of the new IPs and some of the games we kind of knew had show. But it was okay. It wasn't as bad as I perhaps make it out to be. But yeah, it didn't blow me away. Only a couple things did. And still no Splinter Cell.
Let
Sorry,
it
go ahead,
go!
Ned.
Bloody hell!
There was a lot of big stuff that was announced that's very much hype, which is quite par for the course with E3. But the stuff like the phone games did kind of bog it down a bit for me. So I don't know. In my eyes, I think it's a decent 6.
Yeah.
I think it's a decent 6.
In the end, it does kind of make me wonder a little bit if E3 is fully necessary in the age of the internet, because I believe E3 started out in like the 90s, but at that time when the internet wasn't that advanced and people only really knew about new games through like magazines like Nintendo Power and stuff like that, it made E3 like this really exciting event. And E3 is still exciting because a lot of publishers still see it as an opportunity to just unleash the floodgates on a bunch of amazing stuff they're working on. But at the same time, it's making me wonder if it's fully necessary anymore, because we had a lot of trailers come out beforehand. Like one that is distinctively to me is that remake that we're getting of SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom and stuff like that. Stuff that probably couldn't get showcased, but they decided to just let out a few days just because of the E3 hype.
Now that's a fair criticism, I think. In these days it's a lot easier to reveal a game than perhaps it was when E3 was a little bit more relevant. What you had, these days you can just go on Twitter and be like, yeah, 8 p.m. tomorrow, here is the new Watch Dogs, here is the new Dark Souls, whatever it is. Whereas perhaps when like E3 was first a thing, that wasn't possible. So I think there is some truth to Carl's point there.
I think the thing is though, having a big event like E3 is still seen as the biggest event in gaming. It's where all the big stuff is shown up. I think having something like that where everything is shown off is still quite a big sort of hype.
I mean, the film industry is kind of like that to an extent, because think about something like award season where we'd have stuff like the Golden Globes and the BAFTAs and the Oscars and stuff like that. It is, you have to have in the industry some sort of feel of celebration. TV has it with the Emmys, music has it with stuff like the Grammys and stuff like that.
However, I think the internet does kind of make it a little bit worse, because it does tend to leak out stuff. Like, I know Watch Dogs was leaked out a bit before E3, and
it's a bit of a shame in a sense as well.
Mario and Rabbids was infamous for getting leaked, and the game got a bit of a bad rap until the conference came out and people saw gameplay and actually realised, wait, this game actually looks pretty decent. So,
but I think that should probably do it for this episode. So until next time, I've been Ned.
I'm Kyle.
I've been Jacob. 0 out of 10. Still no Splinter Cell.
God, we'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
Bye-bye, people.